Good evening and welcome to the August 4th City Council meeting. If you join me for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation.
Okay, Ms. Orlovsky, roll call, please.
Michelle Volk. Here. Luke Hellier.
Here.
John Bermel.
Here.
Dan Walter.
Here.
And Joshua Lee is absent.
Okay. Moving on to item number 3, citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for anybody to address the council for up to 3 minutes about an issue not on the agenda. Seeing none. Okay. Additional agenda information, Mr. Miller?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Okay. And we will then get right into our presentation with our Police Department quarterly report. I'll turn it over to Chief Paulson for the rundown.
Hopefully.
You don't have it memorized?
I don't, but I have a backup. But we're on board now. So this is our quarter 2 report covering the months of April through June of this year. And all of the work that we do is framed under our mission statement, which says the Lakeville Police Department exists to ensure an excellent quality of life in Lakeville by serving and protecting in a professional and innovative way. So kind of the theme of quarter 2 for us was some transition, and using a sports analogy, it was more like a couple of line changes than substitutions, but we had a lot of movement, but some positive movement. So as you can see here, 4 retirements over the course of a few weeks in late June and the first couple days of July. About 120 years of dedicated service to Lakeville PD with those 4 gentlemen there. So losing a lot of really good people, a lot of experience, but really happy to see them enjoying moving into the next phase, the retirement phase of their lives. So Commander Jim Punchikar, who was our administrative commander, Bill Girl, who was our operations commander, Jason Polinsky, who was most recently in professional standards, but had touched a lot of different units in the PD. And then Doyle Cockrell, who was our senior sergeant, who had been a supervisor for about 7 years prior to his retirement. So proud of the work that all 4 of those gentlemen provided to the city. With that, obviously, comes some backfilling. So 3 new lieutenants. We did a little bit of a restructure. So we've added 3 lieutenants to the 2 current existing lieutenants, but these are new faces to the lieutenant role. On the left there, Jeff Hansen, who will be our support lieutenant. In the middle is Thor Howe, who will be our professional standards lieutenant. And then Jeremy Lerfeld on the right, moving into operations, where he'll join Jason Hyder to oversee primarily our patrol division, as well as our CSOs. Moving further along the line here with some new sergeants. So back at our quarter 1 report, we highlighted Tom Danielson, so he's not pictured here, but the 4 newest additions to the sergeant ranks, on the left, Allison Shank, and then Nick Jacobson, Sarah Ehrman, and Casey King, all with a number of years of experience with Lakeville PD. And these are our frontline supervisors, and all very good police officers. They know the job very well. They're good at administering the job. But even more with our frontline supervisors, we look for a mentorship role there, that people that have shown the ability to coach, to guide, to teach, and all 4 of these folks have done that through various roles as field trainers, instructors, and we know they'll step into that role and have stepped into that role already and are doing very well. I should pass along a little extra recognition here to our Human Resources Director, Alyssa Fry, and her staff for helping facilitate all of this movement over the course of the past few months. So they've done an outstanding job helping us out there. Moving along to the K-9 world, K-9 Nora was new to the PD earlier this year, but has now completed the vast majority of her initial training. She's paired up with Jolene Worden. Jolene's been an officer for coming up on 4 years, but they've been out on the road now. Nora has her patrol certification, participated in their first Panaprog canine demo here a few weeks ago, so good to have them out there working. And then some new patrol officers as well. Justin Engel, who joins us from Mystic Lake. He was a security supervisor out there and then moved into a role coordinating some of the entertainment they get out there, kind of being the liaison for Mystic Lake that works with entertainment groups that come in. And then going a little bit further back, he's got a connection here to Lakeville as a reserve officer with us, was a liquor store associate, and then a community service officer for 3 years. So always good to get some of these folks cycling back through in a patrol officer role. And then one of his partners out at Mystic Lake joined him. So Alex Conkle, also a security supervisor out at the casino. He has his bachelor's degree in law enforcement from Mankato. Both of these guys is a direct result of our internal recruitment efforts. Josh Wickner, an officer we hired late last year, came from Mystic Lake and has enjoyed his experience and spread the word and allowed us to hire a couple of other really good quality candidates here. So welcome to Justin and Alex. And then these two folks are part of our grant program, which is kind of winding down here. But Josh Enevold and Megan Karp started their schooling at Hennepin County, or Hennepin Technical College, I should say, back in February. They wrapped up in July with school, and now they've moved into our traditional field training program. They started about 2 weeks ago. But again, we're paying these folks as full-time employees while they're going through school. Providing the cost for their tuition, and then that's reimbursed to us through a grant for up to $50,000 per candidate through the Department of Public Safety. So we ended up having 3 move through that program now. So Nick Naveau was the first, and he's just winding down his field training program, and then Josh and Megan as well. Some of our community engagement efforts in Q2 on the left there, those 2 pictures are from our open house, which was on Memorial Day weekend back in May. We were fortunate to have another good weather year for that, but that's a really good way for a lot of community members, families to come out and have a lot of interactive fun with some of our staff. Some booths set up with a lot of good hands-on activities and equipment that they can climb on and look at and interact with our folks. The upper right there is a torch run, which was in July. We start the South Metro leg of the torch run. This is a partnership with Special Olympics, which has a long-standing tradition of pairing with law enforcement. We bring the torch up to Crystal Lake Beach and pass it off to Burnsville PD, who takes it from there. I think we had about 14 or 15 runners and bikers this year, and K9 Nora led the pack. As you can see there, she had a little more energy than some of us did, but we all made it. So that was a good day. And then on the right, movie on the turf. This was early June on the turf up at Lakeville North High School. A lot of toys and handouts that are provided from community sponsors, food, games, activities, and then a movie as the sun starts to go down there. So looks like our staff there is probably having more fun than just as much fun as the kids, but they enjoy being out there too. Just a brief update on the First Center. If you haven't been by lately, the warehouse on the far east side of the property has some walls up, so and a lot of dirt moved, which is fun for our staff to see and our partners to see. Some visible signs of progress here, and helps to get excited for that project moving forward. We did tour another local facility to talk staffing, just look at their staffing arrangements and how that could work with ours. Human resources staff joined us on that meet just to get a better understanding of what that could look like. We're also working with our legal folks on finalizing some membership agreements with our partners, and we have 4 agencies that have submitted letters of interest to sign on to those membership agreements as capital members, which is our highest tier of membership. So good to see the progress there. One note on a Public Safety Foundation grant from back in May. They helped to sponsor 2 of our officers, Kerry Wichorek and Brian Smith, out at National Police Week in Washington, D.C. They were part of the law enforcement bike ride from, I believe it's Atlantic City, New Jersey into Washington, D.C., about 250 miles over 4 days. So probably a little bit of soreness there, but they got there and were part of the Candlelight Vigil, and great to have them represent our PD out there. A little bit more meaning this year with Burnsville officers being recognized on the wall back in May. And then a snapshot of some of our training and development in April, May, and June. There's a lot of bullet points, a lot of acronyms there. The point here is just the variety of skill sets that our staff stays on top of. So Q1 is a lot of our mandatory training to keep our licenses active with firearms training, defensive tactics. About 80% of our staff is sworn staff, which means we have to fulfill all of the post-training requirements. But as we move through the year, we can move into some of these more specialized trainings and assignments. And we've also worked with our communication staff here in Lakeville to put out some videos on social media to talk through some pieces of equipment that maybe the community has more questions on, and what the equipment does, and sometimes more importantly what it does not do. So you can look for some of those videos out on social media. Moving into a few statistical slides here, our Q2 case files. These are police reports actually generated. We were up a little bit from 2024, up about 100 police reports. And then this is a slide we've been showing here for a little over a year, but these are calls that go into dispatch where the caller is involved or around some type of mental health crisis. They don't necessarily want a police response. They want some mental health help. So these are steered from dispatch directly to our crisis response social services. This number, 17 calls in Q2 for Lakeville, was down significantly from Q1, which hopefully could be a good trend. That's a good thing. The real key number that we look at on this is the number of times the police actually end up getting involved. And we've seen, as you can see here, 24% of the time. That number's hovered right around, 20 to 30% where police are involved. So it is doing its job of, streamlining that service right to social services and getting those folks the help that they need on their call for service. And then it's buried a little bit up top there, but our total calls for service, as you can see, are down almost 2,000 in Q2 from 2024. And a real driving force of that is our medical response. It doesn't mean that we have less medical calls in the city, but with our fire department moving to full-time fire, there's a lot more of those calls that we are not going to based on their response times and capabilities. So that's, I think, a really positive development citywide. It frees our staff up to do some other things. And then moving down to our mental health related calls, or the welfare checks, stayed pretty consistent, and our crisis mental health calls were up a little bit. Some of that's driven by our liaison that goes out with mental health folks after the fact and does some follow-up calls. Those are factored into that 136 number for 2025. And then more on the traffic side of things, or traffic stops, were relatively stable year over year. Property damage crashes were about the same, and then our injury crashes were up by about 13. Again, these are crashes where one or more occupants reports any type of injury. So all levels of injury are included in that number. Then looking at our comparisons to some of our neighboring agencies and communities there, again, our number 12, just over 12,000, pretty comparable to Burnsville to the north, and a little bit below Egan, a little bit above Apple Valley. And some of the offenses that we look at these quarterly reports are driving under the influence. Arrests were up by 20 in Q2. That's a direct result of having some staff that had some time to get out there and be more proactive in enforcing those offenses. We have undergone a lot of training and education on the side of impairment outside of what I would call more traditional alcohol impairment, with the legalization of cannabis and prevalence of opioids and prescription drugs. Our staff are doing a lot more in recognizing some of the impairments related to that type of impairment as well. Assaults, both aggravated and other, were up 2025 or over 2024, but property related crimes, motor vehicle theft, damage, vandalism, were down this year over last. And then finally, just a few snapshots from our social media. On the left there, our recruiting pitch for our community service officer position. We found throwing puppies in always helps with the engagement. In the middle there are some photographs of our reserves, some different events that they were at. And the far right, we jumped in, I guess, on the action figure meme trend with the stereotypical police officer with a donut and the energy drink. So with that, happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, council questions, comments?
I have a quick one.
Yep.
When you were giving the information on the training and you mentioned what the first quarter usually entails, is that the schedule that every police department goes through? Or I guess I'm thinking about the 4 that have signed up and if you're all on the same schedule, or do different departments rotate those trainings?
Yeah, I can't say everybody does it the exact same way. That's probably more common than not, just because you have to get those in no matter what. So a lot of people like us just want to make sure that as the year goes by, you don't run out of time or run out of space. One of the advantages with our partnerships is the early booking period, where you can lock up that space in the fall before the preceding year, because that's one of the challenges for us. If we wait too long, that space isn't there. We won't have to worry about that with facility now. So that will certainly help in that regard.
Thank you.
I want to say, I know this is not a Q2 thing, but close enough, but I just want to extend my gratitude to the PD, the CSOs and reserves for the job during Panaprog. It seemed everything went pretty well, it seemed like, from a public safety standpoint, so kudos to your team and working with their team, so thank you.
Yes, we appreciate it. We'll have some photos in quarter 3, so yes.
I'm glad I could preview it for you.
Yes,
so.
more to come.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 6, our consent agenda. These are routine items typically for the council. And Mr. Miller, anything you wanted to highlight?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple tonight. Items 6I, 6K, 6L, and 6M are all internal policies that are updates to our personnel policy. The Personnel Committee did review these, and these are basically updates to conform with state statutes that have changed recently. And then item 6J is a professional services agreement with RJM Construction. They will serve as our construction manager at the new fire station that is currently in design.
Okay. Council, anything you'd like to pull for further discussion? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the, yep, Councilmember Walter.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. We'll move on to 7A, public hearing on application for Joy's Thai Cuisine for an on-sale wine and on-sale 3-2 malt liquor license. And I believe our clerk has just a quick update for us.
Yeah, real quick. Joy's Thai Cuisine has been operating under their previous legal entity name as Joy's Thai Cuisine. They've recently made a change in their restructuring, and now they're going to operate under their new entity name, which is Joy Thai Cuisine LLC. The ownership and management of the restaurant will remain the same, and they don't see any other changes.
Okay. Beauty of the law. This is a public hearing. I'll open that now if there's any comment about the license. And seeing none, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. I will now take a motion or discussion on the change of the name on the liquor license. Councilmember Bermal.
I move to grant an on-sale wine and on-sale 3.2% malt liquor license for Joy's Thai Cuisine LLC, located at 7704 160th Street West.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Volk,
Aye.
Hellier,
Aye.
Bermal,
Aye.
Walter.
Aye.
Okay, congratulations to those guys. Thanks for your continued investment in our community. Moving on to item B, ordinance amending Title 10 and 11 of the City Code and summary ordinance for publication. And I'll have our Community Development Director, Ms. Goodroad, tee this up. And just as a background, this was, and maybe she'll talk about it, but some of these things came out of a conversation that I had had with our development community about a year ago, I would guess, where we had a roundtable with some builders thinking about how we can better serve to do some things related to, actually, some of the things we're already doing in areas just in PUD and others. So I'll turn over to you for the update.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. And as the mayor said, this is work in this ordinance that came out of a lot of those past discussions. So before you this evening are amendments to Title 10, the subdivision section, and Title 11, the zoning ordinance. Again, just a little bit of history. A lot of these initiatives come from our comprehensive plan and things that we're seeing change with that future plan. Part of it's just part of our annual development regulation review and amendment. We usually come before you a couple of times a year with some amendments. And then last summer, we did have a pretty deep dive discussion with about 10 of our local builders, both local as well as national builders that are very active in Lakeville. And we just kind of had a heart-to-heart conversation about what are things that we could do to our code to make it a little bit easier to build housing. We also brought these ideas to the Planning Commission in a work session in December, and then a follow-up work session in January, which basically was the content for what this ordinance began. We did pause as we were waiting to see what might happen through the last legislative session. Nothing did come out of that, but we felt we were ready to move forward with our ordinances. So I'll go through and highlight, and then if you have questions on the specifics. The work was prepared by our planning consultant, Dan Licht. He provided a very detailed memo that was both in the Planning Commission packet as well as in your packet that kind of digs a little deeper than I'm kind of covering tonight. But one of the first things that the ordinance does is it eliminates that extra size garage for dwellings without basements. That was probably one of the top things the builders brought up. The requirement is unique to Lakeville. Builders usually have to work through some kind of Lakeville-specific design to provide for that. And so the recommendation from both Planning Commission and Council was to move that back down to 440 for those types of structures. So that change has been made. In addition to that, in some of our larger lot residential districts, we do require right now a site plan that allows for the third car garage stall, just to prove that out. We don't believe that ordinance is necessary. These lots are all of the sufficient size to accommodate for that. The next thing we looked at is our lot sizes and what can we do to make it a little bit easier, little less hoops to jump through to have the smaller lots. So right now in our RS4 by conditional use, or I'm sorry, by our RS2 district, which is on the left-hand side, the RS2 allows by conditional use permit the ability to do 7,500 square foot lots. We wanted to change that, make it a little bit more flexible, and so the proposal is on the right, making RST2 7,500 square feet or 55-foot wide lots by right, without having that CUP. And then we added it to the RS4. That one we did keep as a CUP. This just makes it a little bit easier in some of our districts to do the smaller lots. Again, we really work hard with developers as we're going through the sketch plan review, as we're going through the preliminary plat review, to have a mixture of lots, but it does allow that. By eliminating that CUP in the one district, it's one less hurdle to jump through. Within that CUP language was a lot of other criteria. We still have language in here in the amendment that requires, quality design, particularly curvilinear streets. One of the concerns staff has with, a development that might come in with a whole row of all 75s, you're going to look down, it's going to look like a tunnel. And so we want to have that language in there. We work hard to get that, but when it's an ordinance, it makes it even easier. The next one deals with exterior materials. We took out the requirement that you have to use brick or stone on the front and added in here that you can allow or utilize engineered wood or cement fiber siding, also known as hardy board, as one of those requirements. You can also vary the type and texture material, so you could have two different styles of the hardy board to count for that major material. So think farmhouse style design. You can't do a full farmhouse style design, which is usually a white home with a black outline for the windows, or the black frame, I should call it, for the windows. You can't do that under the code at the top, because the requirement for the brick. Oftentimes, those will have a couple of different styles, shake and cedar style, types of elevation versus the brick. So this ordinance would allow that. Other amendments, we modified the base lot provisions. There's a lot of contradictory requirements, and it also results in less effective use of the property. So we simplified the base lot provisions so it allows a better utilization of land, and it's just simple to read. On the developer's side, I should be able to talk tonight, on the developer's side as well as when we're interpreting all of these different plats. Next one is to utilize the RM3 standards in the RH districts when it comes to townhomes. That's just something that's simply missing. So having that reference and making it clear, because in the RH you can still do townhomes. And then eliminating the RH district transition requirements using single family or two family. The ordinance really just requires a tier or a row of townhomes to serve as that transition. And then eliminating the minimum area for PUDs. This is something that's been in the ordinance for a long time. And what we're finding is, as we are developing, we're dealing with smaller lots or smaller infill developments. And then also on the west side of 35, we're going to have some tricky sites. Topography, trees, wetlands, and so forth. So we want to make the use of PUDs more flexible. Again, not a mandate. I understand there was a lot of conversation in the legislation regarding PUDs. This just simply allows a developer to request that. We still have to review it, still has to meet the PUD criteria, but it does loosen up the ability to utilize those. So that is the gist of the changes that really affect kind of what we've coined that missing middle, or ability to broaden the housing market across different price ranges. The other code update is just our regular stuff that we run into on a daily basis that just needs to get fixed. Encroachments, that was actually a code change that we did a couple of meetings ago. In the subdivision ordinance, we identified, with the help of Attorney Paler, some variance process criteria that we needed to update, making sure it's very clear in the ordinance that street extensions have to go to the plat boundary. And then just other things within the zoning ordinance regarding administration of CUPs and IUPs, broadening the ability of commercial exterior finishes to also utilize that engineered wood, fixing some right-of-way for antennas. You can see the list there. And then switching data centers as a CUP in the OP district. So that's kind of a catch-all for all of those other additional code changes that are tied together in one ordinance with the missing middle. So it's all, the subdivision portion is at the front of the ordinance, followed by the zoning ordinance update. And I would stand for any questions.
Okay, council, questions, comments? Councilmember Walter.
Can you explain the antenna thing a little bit to me? Like,
Antenna one.
kinds of antennas are those?
Of course, you're going to ask me on that one. And I'm not sure if that was something, that was actually something that City Attorney Paler brought up, dealing with placement of antennas within rights-of-way, dealing with the requirements for CUPs. So it's described on page 9 of the memo. I'm going to look to
What kind of antennas?
Ms.
would
Paler if
those-
she recalls why those amendments were
They weren't consistent with
state law.
state law.
Okay.
So we had to clean that up a little bit. And it's small cell wireless, as I recall,
Okay.
were being amended, just the small cells.
Right, thanks.
Okay. Would you just talk a little bit about the multifamily as permitted use in the RH CBD district?
Yeah, that was something that wasn't clear as a permitted use. So making sure that it's clear as a permitted use in the downtown district.
Got it, yep. Any other,
I'll just offer a comment on this. I want to applaud you, Mr. Mayor, on this issue. This housing, in the middle housing issue's been a big issue in the legislature the last couple of years, and with some scrutiny of communities like Lakeville. And you said, let's meet with the local developers and roll up our sleeves and figure out what we can do to address this rather than waiting for the legislation at the state level that still has not come, fortunately. So anyway, I think these are sensible updates and changes, and it's a nice way to show that the city of Lakeville is working with our developers and focused on that housing issue. So thank you.
Councilman Bermal.
I want to make a similar comment. Kudos, this involves builders, it involves city staff, and it's the process. I want people to understand the process wasn't just like, oh, hey, a week ago we thought, let's look at this. This has been over a year of conversation and just give and take and reaching consensus, and it's well considered. And there's nothing in here that's unreasonable. So I share my colleagues' kudos for everybody that was involved in the process.
I'll just say that the one thing I think is really important for us to be proactive because, as Councilmember Walter and Bermal mentioned some of the stuff that's happening in the legislature, one of the things that the legislature thinks is a really good idea is taking away the ability for the public to weigh in on these types of projects. Mm-hmm. They want to eliminate public comment, and I think that us structuring, to be a little bit forward-thinking and be an example to help protect some of those things like public comment and some of the other crazy things that the legislature's proposed, I think is important. So I'm glad that we can kind of try to lead on this issue, certainly with, being one of the faster-growing cities in the last couple of years. So with that, I will take a motion to approve. Councilmember Bermal?
I move to approve an ordinance amending Title 10 and Title 11 of the City Code and a summary ordinance for publication.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Bermal,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Hellier.
Aye. Thank you, and thanks to staff for all your work with everybody on the Planning Commission community to help make this happen. Moving on, unfinished and new business. Seeing none. Our next city council meeting is Monday, August 18th here at City Hall. Our next work session is August 25th in the Marion Conference Room. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.